Meghan Markle's Netflix saga continues to spiral, and this time, it's far more than minor creative disputes or a few PR slip-ups. This situation has escalated into something much deeper, an internal investigation that has left Netflix executives scrambling, scrapped scripts piling up, and Meghan stripped of nearly all creative authority. What began quietly, like most controversies, erupted once the higher-ups at Netflix began to uncover what was truly happening behind the scenes of With Love. Meghan Season 2. The brakes were slammed, and things quickly unraveled. The mess became more bizarre when Netflix cleared out Meghan's creative office. What they found were dozens of handwritten notes, personal outlines, script drafts, and conceptual sketches for scenes she wanted in the show. The deeper they looked, the more concerned they became. One of the most baffling discoveries involved her pregnancy videos. Yes, Meghan had planned a sequence where she would watch and react to old videos of herself, filmed years ago while pregnant, dancing to rap music and lip-syncing in her kitchen. One particular scene involved her cooking while those clips played in the background. Executives were stunned. Who did she think this would appeal to? It felt like she was trying to turn personal phone footage into a global streaming feature, and no one at Netflix could understand why she thought that made compelling television. Then came the so-called divorce episode. In one now infamous outline, Meghan scripted an entire arc centered on a conversation between herself and actress Mindy Kaling about the consequences of divorce. It wasn't a small side conversation, it was meant to be the heart of a full episode. While discussing personal challenges and relationships can make for great content, this wasn't that. Insiders said the tone felt less like storytelling, and more like Meghan working through her own emotional history on camera. Instead of connecting with audiences, it came across as introspective to the point of alienating less about the viewer and more about herself. But that wasn't the most concerning element. What really raised alarm was an 8-minute segment Meghan wrote about alcoholism. She positioned it as an awareness moment, but producers felt it leaned too heavily on personal processing rather than offering anything constructive or enlightening. Suspicion only deepened when reports emerged that she had been keeping boxes of wine meant for cast and crew stored in her private trailer. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, and questions about professionalism and motive began to swirl. By the time these ideas surfaced, Netflix had already taken creative control away from Meghan. None of her scenes or notes made it into the working scripts. They archived her material and proceeded without her involvement. But when Meghan tried to reintroduce her concepts during last-minute reshoots, tensions exploded. Ted Sarandos, Netflix's co-CEO, shut it down completely. No negotiations, no explanation, just a direct refusal. Meghan didn't take it well. She reportedly pleaded, argued, and tried to frame her ideas as bold and visionary, but was unmoved. The verdict was final. Her notes stayed in the archive, and the show moved forward without her. What followed was exactly what you'd expect from a production in meltdown. Netflix entered damage control. They brought in new producers, tossed out entire scenes, and transformed what was once a carefully planned second season into a Frankenstein-like patchwork of rushed reshoots and improvised content. The aim was no longer to produce something exceptionally, was simply to salvage something watchable. As the chaos intensified, more troubling revelations surfaced, among them, accusations of plagiarism. Meghan had allegedly lifted ideas, dialogue, and even entire segments from well-known personalities such as Gordon Ramsay, Rachel Ray, and Pamela Anderson. Netflix's legal department flagged numerous parts of the draft that bore an uncomfortable resemblance, sometimes word for word, to published material from these public figures. It wasn't homage, it was borderline duplication. Several of the show's so-called life lessons seemed lifted directly from interviews, books, and articles already in the public sphere. Even after losing formal input, Meghan tried to maintain her influence behind the scenes. She reportedly began contacting junior staff and editors directly, attempting to sneak her original ideas back into the cut. But word spread fast, and Netflix's leadership was not amused. The more she pushed, the more isolated she became. Even crew members who once supported her began pulling away. No one wanted to be linked to a production fast becoming a hazard. Her office, once a bustling creative space, became symbolic of the collapse. Now abandoned and reallocated to another project, it stood as a silent reminder of what went wrong. As they cleared it out, staff discovered even more personal sketches, concepts that had never even been proposed. One included plans for a cooking-themed spin-off where Meghan would try organic recipes while discussing social issues. Another outlined a musical-style segment with children's choirs singing about forgiveness and family healing. Some saw it as quirky. Netflix saw it as wildly disconnected from their brand and audience expectations. Then came the biggest red flag yet. Internal conversations between Ted Sarandos and senior producers revealed that concerns had existed for months. Meghan, they said, struggled to separate performance from reality. One executive reportedly warned that the show risked becoming more of a personal therapy session than coherent content. Another was more blunt, describing it as emotional projection with no clear structure or purpose. As Netflix wrestled with this crisis, the media caught wind of the internal strife. Headlines began shifting. The earlier praise about Meghan's fresh storytelling vanished, replaced by questions about how such a chaotic project got greenlit in the first place. Industry insiders began dissecting the entire ordeal, calling it a cautionary tale about mistaking celebrity for creative leadership. And Meghan, she wasn't staying quiet. Sources say she privately reached out to rival streaming platforms, hoping to pitch new projects, but the industry now wary wasn't biting. What once looked like a career-defining partnership had become a toxic brand risk, as Netflix braced for the storm. Rough cuts of With Love, Meghan Season 2 began to circulate internally. The response was bleak. The footage was inconsistent, the tone erratic, and the pacing a mess. Some scenes resembled unscripted monologues, others felt like they were ripped straight from a personal vlog. In some instances, Meghan even broke the fourth wall in ways that confused editors. No one was sure whether it was intentional or left in by mistake. At this point, quality wasn't the concern. Reputational damage was. Producers attempted to piece something together, but they were effectively assembling a storyline out of scraps. Half the original cast had scheduling conflicts due to delays, and the script had been rewritten so many times that even the crew no longer knew what the show was about. There was no clear theme, no emotional arc, just a stitched-together patchwork of pseudo-inspirational commentary, mood-heavy voiceovers, and recycled footage. Even reshoots were compromised because original sets were no longer available, forcing teams to rebuild them from scratch. Netflix's PR team knew the truth would eventually come out. Meghan had been removed from creative control. So, they began crafting their own version of events, leaking carefully worded narratives to trade media, framing the shakeup as part of a larger quality control strategy. They wanted to own the story before Meghan did, but Meghan was also preparing. In private, she reportedly described the situation as deliberate sabotage. She felt her vision had been misrepresented by executives who never truly supported her. Some insiders claim she even began gathering documents, emails, production notes, internal memos in preparation for potential legal action against what she saw as creative suppression. However, the industry had already moved on. Producers, agents, and even sympathetic journalists began distancing themselves. Those once eager to praise her were no longer returning calls. Nobody wanted to be tied to a sinking ship. What started as Meghan's big comeback, an opportunity to reshape her public image after royal life, was now just another PR nightmare at present. The final episodes of Season 2 remain in post-production limbo. Editors are under pressure to deliver something vaguely coherent, but even they admit privately that the standards have dropped. The goal is no longer to impress, it's just to survive without another scandal. Back at Netflix HQ, Meghan's old office is empty. Her nameplate is long gone. Rumor has it the space will soon be converted into a sound design suite for another series. As for With Love, Meghan, no one at the company brings it up unless they absolutely have to.